Rain lashed against the windows. Thunder rattled the small cabin. Wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the trees outside. It was a night to stay inside, safe and warm. Sarah sat at her laptop, the glow of the screen reflecting in her anxious eyes. She had come to this remote cabin to write, to escape the distractions of the city. But the storm was making it hard to concentrate. She tried to focus on her work, her fingers flying across the keyboard. But the storm kept interrupting her thoughts. She got up and paced the room, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that was creeping over her. As suddenly she heard it, a whisper, faint and indistinct, carried on the wind. She stopped, holding her breath, listening intently. There it was again, a soft murmuring, just on the edge of hearing. Sarah told herself it was just the wind whistling through the trees, but deep down a shiver of fear ran down her spine. The whispers seemed too deliberate, too close for comfort. A flash of lightning illuminated the woods outside, and in that brief blinding light Sarah saw him, a tall, shadowy figure standing at the edge of the trees. He was just out of reach of the cabin's single lamppost, his features obscured by the darkness. Her breath caught in her throat, her heart pounded in her chest. She strained to see through the darkness, but the figure was gone. Had she imagined it? A trick of the light? She tried to rationalize her fear. It was just a tree, she told herself. The wind was playing tricks on her. But the whispers continued, soft and insidious, seeming to come from just outside the cabin walls. And then she heard it. A tapping sound, light and rhythmic, like fingers drumming on glass. She spun around, her eyes searching the windows, but she couldn't see anything in the darkness. Driven by a mixture of fear and curiosity, Sarah grabbed a flashlight and crept towards the door. She had to see for herself. She had to know if someone was out there, watching her. As she opened the door a crack, the wind slammed it open. She stepped outside, shining the flashlight beam into the darkness, and there in the mud beneath the window, she saw them. Footprints. Fresh footprints. Someone had been there watching her. A cold dread washed over her. Someone was inside the cabin with her. Sarah froze, her blood turning to ice. The flashlight beam trembled in her hand, illuminating the darkened living room. There, in the center of the room, stood the figure from the woods. He was tall and gaunt, his clothes drenched and muddy. His face was hidden in the shadows, but Sarah could feel his eyes fixed on her, cold and menacing. Terror choked her, stealing her voice. He moved slowly, deliberately, towards the table where her laptop sat. He reached out a hand, his long, bony fingers brushing against the keyboard. The screen flickered, and then a message appeared, glowing in the darkness. "You should not be here," it read. The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy with unspoken threat. Sarah's mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Who was this man? And what did he want? As quickly as he had appeared, the figure vanished. He was gone, swallowed by the storm. The only evidence he had ever been there was the muddy footprints on the floor and the chilling message on the laptop screen. Sarah stood there for a moment, paralyzed with fear, before she finally found her voice. A scream ripped from her throat, echoing into the empty cabin. The next morning the storm had passed. The sun shone brightly, but its warmth couldn't penetrate the chill that had settled over the cabin. Sarah was gone. The laptop lay open on the table, the message still glowing ominously on the screen, but there was no sign of Sarah. The only trace of her was the single set of muddy footprints leading away from the cabin, disappearing into the woods.